little crackly there. Don't ask me why. Oh my God. Love it when this happens. How you doing? We'll get rid of it in a second. Hold on. Nope. Okay, excuse me. Pardon the crackle. Nothing was happening, and as soon as I start the show, it happens. I don't know. That's weird. Anyways, we're all here. Hello. Greetings. Y'all are here at the right time, on time, and we are live on Colin, Rockfin, and on YouTube. Good to see you all. Real quick, best way to support the show, and I spend a lot of time every single day bringing you this show. Best way to support the show is paypal.me/Kevin Sandbloom, Venmo at Kevin Sandbloom, Cash App at Red Llama Music, buymeacoffee.com/BlackBearNews. You can send me a message on any of those platforms, or you can Super Ray me. Ha ha, check. Okay. Thanks for letting me know about the crackle. Anyways, what I was saying is you can support the show at any of these here links, and they're all in the description box below, or you can Super Ray me, which is a Rockfin tip, or you can Super Chat me. And in the middle of the show and at the end of the show, I will be checking messages. And reading any messages you want to send out over the airwaves. All right, you know the deal. Okay, here we go. Let's get into it. Or let's try to get into it. Everybody been, I know it's been kind of warm. It is also quite warm here. I saw this article in Truth Out. I don't know. This is one of the reasons why I'm not really a big Truth Out fan anymore. I still get their emails, but I have not been a supporter of Truth Out for quite a while. Mainly because they're kind of, I don't know, they're kind of status quo, they support kind of like the deep state liberal narrative thing that's going on, and I'm not really a fan of that. Sometimes they can have good articles about ecology, about climate change. This article was a big fail, and I just wanted to point out how goofy it was. I'm not going to spend a long time on it. Degrowthers gain support as planet cooks. Can they ally with Green New Dealers? So, the other reason why I don't want to spend time on this is kind of a waste of time, but this is the kind of stuff, though, that Truth Out is putting out, and this is just, they're trying to say, what they're trying to do is like soft pedal, like say like degrowth, it's not really anti-capitalist, and it's just about rearranging the deck chairs, and it's just about like redistributing the wealth, and it's like, no, that's not what degrowth is about. Degrowth is about degrowth. It is actually anti-capitalist. they're trying to appease the people that are like, oh my God, this, degrowth is all about austerity and telling people that they're going to have less. And you can't tell people that they're going to have less because that means that you're anti-human. Literally, that's kind of like at the basis of what they're trying to say, is that caring for the planet is somehow, is like anti-human or anti-human rights, or like, who are you going to kill first? You don't want people to live. No, that's not what it's about. That's not what it's about. Anyways, I was going to kind of sketch through here a little bit, but degrowth and its opponents recognize the necessity of mass movements and system change to address the climate emergency. In the New Yorker, environmental activist Bill McKibben presents degrowth as a call to reduce consumption, in contrast to the Green New Deal, which emphasizes production. So we know that, the Green New Deal is all about green growth and, jobs. Climate change means jobs, and, buy you an electric car or a energy efficient stove, and we will solve the climate change by doing that, right? Even-handedly, he opposes endless growth, but parts company with degrowthers when they, citing the ecological costs of all the mining required, refuse to support an all-out push for electric vehicles. So he's like, yeah, these degrowthers, they kind of have a point, but, we need electric cars. This is a very confusing and confused article. The person that wrote this article, Gareth Dale, I don't know. This is the kind of confusion that is being pumped out in the face of actual ecological destruction, right? And we absolutely refuse to look at ourselves as maybe the source of the problem, or the way that maybe we don't even have to look at ourselves as the source of the problem, but maybe the way that we have arranged ourselves on the planet, right? We've arranged ourselves in the way that we have to live in this economic paradigm, this business as usual, this endless economic growth paradigm, that, everything that we're doing on the planet is, good. If it's good for us, it's good, who cares about the rest of the planet, basically, is what it is. If it's good for us, eventually it's going to be good for the planet, right? Because our technological prowess and know-how and the way that we're just so amazing is eventually going to figure out how to fix all the problems that we're causing on the planet. But that's not what's happening. That is not what's happening. What's happening is we're destroying the planet, and we don't have really the technological means with which to fix the planet. And people are proposing that we fix this problem by doing more technology, or technologizing our way out of the situation. It just, I don't know. Anyways, he says, why not do both? He asks, invest in renewables and EVs while also restricting wasteful consumerism. Okay. Well, what's wasteful? Is an EV, an electric vehicle, wasteful consumerism? I think it might be. This is a very, very silly article. I just wanted to point out how silly it is, and truth out, y'all got to do a little better. Jacobin is where we find the most vinegary views, adverted already in the title, The Problem with Degrowth. Matt Huber, a Syracuse professor whose Climate Change as Class War appeared last year, finds a few polite words for degrowthers' critique of capitalism, but rejects the rest. For Huber, degrowth is a politics of austerity. Oh, austerity, oh. It is anti-Marxist, what? Where Marxism is portrayed idiosyncratically as a program for the state-led ramping up of production and consumption. Scornful of I'm confused. Scornful of degrowthers' prohibition on technological development and their insistence on constraining energy use and material throughput, His counterproposal centers on the massive development of the productive forces. No, we don't need less production. We need more production. More production. Anyways, and whereas degrowthers perceive the transgressing of planetary boundaries as an existential threat, Huber's stance is laid back. One of them, the ozone hole, has already been fixed. It's fixed, guys. That's it. Go home. Get some ice cream, put it in the freezer. The ozone hole is fixed. Okay? It's a happy day. We did it. We did it. So splendidly, simply, with the change of technology. All the other 8, of which climate change and biodiversity disappearance are but 2, can be fixed by qualitative transformations of specific sectors of production. Wow. It does sound specific, excuse me. To fix climate change, the specific sector to be transformed is energy. That's it. That's all we got to do. Fix the energy, and then climate change, we're fixed. It's all done. For the U.S., Huber borrows prominent modeling from Princeton's Net Zero America report to advocate massive investment in heat pumps and renewable energy and carbon capture and storage. Carbon capture and storage. This, I mean, this guy is a Syracuse professor. This is what people with the big brains are thinking. In case you're wondering. This person gets paid to have a big brain. And this is what they're pumping out into the world. Can I get a job? I'll bring my diploma. I'm like the scarecrow. I have a brain. Can I get a diploma? Can I get a job as a professor? Anyways. He sees, to fix climate change, Princeton's Net Zero America report advocating carbon capture and storage, and in construction, oh my God, it gets even worse, of 250 large nuclear reactors. Big ones, guys, big ones. If we just get some really big nuclear reactors, we're going to fix climate change. Oh my God, this is lunacy. I'm spending more time than I thought I was going to spend on this. He wants to build real big, if we have nuclear reactors, but they're really big, big ones. Yeah. Okay. He sees the Princeton program as compatible with an electorally popular Green New Deal. The Green New Deal is electorally popular. That's what you need to take home from that. Why is it popular? Because it doesn't mean that anybody's lives have to change. Oh, we can still make things and buy things and throw things away into the trash pit. Great. He compares it. He says it's compatible with the electorally popular GND, which he contrasts with the degrowth's lack of voter support. There's just no voter support for degrowth. Okay, so there's no voter support for degrowth, guys. So just pack it in, okay? This last critique carries a hint of projection, given that Huber's own manifesto, the nationalization of all private companies under a socialist planning regime, is hardly riding high in the polls. I mean, that's the best idea he has. Nationalization of all private companies. I fully support that. That's the first thing we need to do. Nationalize every company out there, take their money, scatter them to the winds, to the breeze, keep what is necessary. That I'm totally in line with that. That would be the first thing I would do as president of the United States. No, I mean, if I had a say in something, I would say, if I had a, my opinion carried some weight somewhere. Yeah, first thing we need to do, nationalize all companies, period. Nationalize them, take them over, take their assets, send everybody packing. That sounds super communist. For the people out there that think I'm green MAGA or something, that's probably one of the most communist things you'll hear in the world. So, yeah, just to clarify where I'm at politically. Anyways. First off, degrowthers emphatically do not advocate recession or austerity. Yes, they do. That's degrowth is recession. It's austerity. It's economic degrowth. It's less economic activity. It's going the opposite way of a growing economy. It's absolutely recession and austerity. So, I mean, how can you even write this line as a journalist? Can I be a journalist for the truth out? Apparently, I don't know. You just need to write silly stuff like this, and you're good. These flow from the dynamics of capital accumulation that they critique, abhor, and seek to overcome. Drawing on socialist, anarchist, decolonial, and feminist traditions, their project is societal transformation with radical redistribution, domestically and internationally, to raise living standards for the... That is not what degrowthers think. This dude is fundamentally misdefining what degrowth is. This is wild. And this is just, trash. Secondly, the distinction between degrowth and the Green New Deal cannot be mapped to simple binaries, whether reduce consumption versus invest in production, reject versus promote new tech, or individual sacrifice versus collective action. Many opponents of degrowth maintain that electricity should be a human right and available to all the world's population. Most degrowthers would agree. But with caveats, though. Maybe. With caveats. They advocate gargantuan investments in energy-efficient technologies and renewables. That is not what they... anyways, whatever. Degrowther Jason Hickel, is he a degrowther? Are you sure about that? Calls for public investment to be targeted to churning out solar panels, heat pumps, and batteries. He's not a degrowther. Jason Hickel is not a degrowther. At a historically unprecedented rate. We need to build things. In order to degrow, we need to build things at a historically unprecedented rate. Building things equals degrowth. According to Jason Hickel. Apparently he's a degrowther. I don't know. This is like goofball. An unprecedented rate reminiscent of the industrial retooling that enabled the Allies to win the Second World War. Yeah. Anyways. In short, there is no necessary opposition between degrowth and the Green New Deal. That's it. It's the same thing, guys. Everything's fine. So, in order to clean up the environment, what we need to do is pump a whole bunch of emissions into the air in order to have this historically unprecedented growth spurt, in order to get us to a place where we can reduce emissions. What we need to do is pump a whole bunch of emissions out there so that we can put ourselves in a place to reduce emissions. And when all these renewables wear out, we're going to have to make more of them. Probably not with renewable energy. Anyways, this is just wild, ridiculous stuff. Just pointing out what's going on out there in the world of disinformation, misinformation, and just massive confusing of people in general. But this, expect more of this as things kind of unravel and everybody's wondering what's going on, and you're just going to have people like, as Cameo put it, talking at the side of their necks. Y'all know about Cameo? Ooh, good band. Also the song She's Strange, really good. Let's see. Let's move on. There's drought in Louisiana and much of the south and southeast U.S. An entire town in southwestern Louisiana is under mandatory evacuation orders. Because of wildfire that state officials say is the largest they have ever seen. Unusually during this time of the year, the Deep South state is addressing threats of imminent hurricanes, tropical storms, and flooding. But this summer, Louisiana has been plagued by record-breaking heat and extreme drought, which have made the wildfire risk unusually high. This month alone, there have been 441 wildfires in the state. This is unprecedented. We've never had to fight this many fires simultaneously and at this duration. We're fighting between 25 and 30 wildfires today. Mike Strain, the commissioner for Louisiana's Department of Agriculture and Forestry, said during a news conference on Friday. While nearly all of Louisiana is abnormally dry for this time of year, half the state is facing extreme or exceptional drought, according to data from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Nobody alive in Louisiana today has ever seen these conditions. It has never been this hot and dry for this long, Edwards said during Friday's news conference. The state has faced scorching temperatures this summer. Last week, Edwards declared a state of emergency because of extreme heat. About 40 miles southeast of Maryville and Lake Charles, temperatures have been in the triple digits every day since August 18th and over 95 degrees since June 29th. So Louisiana facing drought. Texas facing drought. And there is a hurricane heading towards Florida, or a tropical storm. She ain't a hurricane yet. But something is developing here. This is not it. Sorry, I have the wrong link. My bad, excuse me. Tropical storm Idalia formed Sunday morning and is forecast to make landfall this week along Florida's Gulf Coast as a hurricane, prompting Governor Ron DeSantis to declare a state of emergency for 33 counties. There will be a window while the system is in the Gulf. That may be conducive to its strengthening, said Nick Carr, a meteorologist for National Weather Service Miami, but it remains unclear how strong it could become. The most current National Hurricane Center forecast discussion predicts top winds could reach 90 miles an hour, making it potentially a Category 1 hurricane at landfall. Major hurricanes are classified as Category 3 and above. The storm could also coincide with South Florida's king tides next week. There's supposed to be a supermoon, adding to already elevated tides and making flooding more likely, Carr said. Yeah. And there's also, let's see, there's another post here from Jeff Berdelli, I believe. Tampa Bay area, although we are on the east side of the cone, there are new models that track a hurricane nearby. We'd be on the dirty side of the storm, the dirty side, and the dirty, with substantial, I don't know what this means, surge, I guess, wave surge in this type of scenario with a super moon. Get prepared now. So some people are predicting this could turn into something rather large. Could become significant. People keeping an eye on that, and as you know, as they should, because these storms have in the last few years really accelerated very quickly when they, travel over the warmer waters of the Gulf. They can really intensify, literally overnight. Historic heat in the Gulf, and this is why they intensify. Because the water is very warm, but the air temperature and the water, everything is very warm. Historic heat in the Gulf with several records broken all-time highs in Slidell, Louisiana, 108. Hattiesburg, 107. Gulfport, 107. Pascagoula, 106. Picayune, 106. New Iberia, 106. Mobile, Alabama, 106. Oh, some of these are in Mississippi, by the way. Gulfport, Hattiesburg, etc. New Orleans, 102. That's a tie for a high. Monthly highs, Bogalusa, Louisiana, 106. Pensacola, Florida, 105. Crestview, Florida, 103. That's a tie. So very, very warm temperatures in the Gulf Coast. More major extreme type weather events going on in Hubei province in China. Massive floods due to heavy rainfall. Massive floods. Also, Europe is getting still very strange weather. Very back and forth between high heat and low heat. And I mean, low temperature, excuse me. Yes, low heat. Clearly, I need more coffee. This is hailstorms in Germany. Also, Mallorca, Spain, getting smashed by heavy winds. There's a lot of footage out there about some just really, really intense windstorms going on in Mallorca. Look out for that chair. And here's the forecast. The forecast for Europe looking just all over the place, going from extreme heat to extreme cold in the summertime. This is from Thomas Rees, and he's going to show you a kind of a time lapse of what's going on in Europe, or what is going to go on in Europe during the next week or two. So look at that. You have these cold bands coming from the Arctic because of the wavy jet stream. I say it 3 times, means it's really wavy. But yeah, going from extreme heat to extreme cold, and that is the hallmark or the signature of the climate change, right? Or the climate changing in unprecedented ways, right? In ways that we're not really prepared for yet. And also the climate is changing at a scale, at a speed, much faster than it has in the past. That's the difference, right? Climate is always changing, yes, but who was it? Was it William Rees or someone else saying, in the past, the climate changed from hot to cold states, but it took millions of years. Maybe sometimes, if it was moving real fast, it would take 20,000 years, right, to change from hot to cold. We're doing it in 100 years. So we're we're breaking all the records as far as climate change goes, and that's an issue. Let's see. All right, and I think we're just about wrapping up the first half of the show. One more from Stephen Donziger. Kind of pointing out that growing numbers of countries are considering making ecocide a crime. Sure. My issue, which I reposted this with the question, my issue is how is this going to be enforced? Is it really going to be enforced? I mean, this is a man who brought Chevron to trial, was successful, and did they really face any kind of consequences for this? No. In fact, they turned into Exxon, and they turned around and prosecuted Stephen Donziger for daring to put them on trial. So, this is great that a number of countries are considering making ecocide a crime, but are they going to have the power, the authority, or the will to actually prosecute, to bring these companies? Because it's not about, my other concern is that people or smaller entities will be, oh, you're doing the ecocide, right? You've done something bad there. Whatever it is you're doing we consider that ecocide, and that's a crime. Okay, but is that going to apply to the people that are doing all the ecocide, the big ecocide, the real ecocide, or are they going to make it apply to, people who have no legal defense fund to, to counter these charges? I don't know. I have my questions about that. I think it's I support it. I think it's a great idea, sure, but only if it sticks. We have monopoly laws in the U.S., but we don't really apply them. There's all kinds of monopolies operating at the moment. We don't apply anti-monopoly laws in the U.S., so we don't enforce these laws that are on the books. So you can pass laws all day, suicide crime. It doesn't matter. All right. I'm going to check in on the coffees and the comments and whatnot, see if I have got anything today in the mid part of the show. What's up, Rockfinners? How you doing? I see you all on Rockfin. I see you. All right. All good. Nothing yet. And checking some other things. Give me one moment. Yeah. All right. We'll come back and check those at the end of the show. And let's see. I want to read part of this article. I'm going to end the show. It's a really good article, kind of about the war on misinformation and the criminalizing of like free speech and free thought on the internet, and where it came from and how that's unfolding, or how it unfolded and how it is still unfolding. I cannot read this whole article because it is really long, at least for this show. But I'm going to read a few paragraphs of this, and then we will kind of wrap up the show. A Guide to Understanding the Hoax of the Century. prologue the information war in 1950, Senator Joseph McCarthy claimed that he had proof of a communist spy ring operating inside the government. Overnight, the explosive accusations blew up in the national press, but the details kept changing. Initially, McCarthy said he had a list with the names of 205 communists in the State Department. The next day, he revised it to 57. Since he kept the list a secret, the inconsistencies were beside the point. The point was the power of the accusation, which made McCarthy's name synonymous with the politics of the era. For more than half a century, McCarthyism stood as a defining chapter in the worldview of American liberals, a warning about the dangerous allure of blacklists, witch hunts, and demagogues. Until 2017, that is, when another list of alleged Russian agents roiled the American press and political class. A new outfit called Hamilton 68 claimed to have discovered hundreds of Russian-affiliated accounts that had infiltrated Twitter to sow chaos and help Donald Trump win the election. Russia stood accused of hacking social media platforms, the new centers of power, and using them to covertly direct events inside the United States. None of it was true. I'm going to repeat that. None of it was true. After reviewing Hamilton 68's secret list, Twitter's safety officer, Yoel Roth, this is a man who was higher up at Twitter, privately admitted that his company was allowing real people, that's you and me, to be unilaterally labeled Russian stooges without evidence or recourse. The Hamilton 68 episode played out as a nearly shot-for-shot remake of the McCarthy affair, with one important difference. McCarthy faced some resistance from leading journalists as well as from U.S. intelligence agencies and his fellow members of Congress. In our time, those same groups lined up to support the new secret lists and attack anyone who questioned them. Right. So that the media, mainstream media, and just regular folks like you and I completely ate this up, bought it, hook, line, and sinker. And still, to this day, continue to repeat this nonsense. Jeff Gibbs on Facebook. I like Jeff Gibbs. He's cool. He's great. Good guy. Had some stupid post about like, oh, hey, Donald, I think Putin needs a new cook. You still believe it. People still repeat this garbage. When proof emerged earlier this year, this Hamilton 68 was a high-level hoax perpetrated against the American people, it was met with a great wall of silence in the national press. That's because they perpetrated it. Why would they want to bring attention to that? The disinterest was so profound, it suggested a matter of principle rather than convenience for the standard bearers of American liberalism who had lost faith in the promise of freedom and embraced a new ideal. In his last days in office, President Barack Obama made the decision to set the country on a new course. On December 23, 2016, he signed into law the Countering Foreign Propaganda and Disinformation Act, which used the language of defending the homeland to launch an open-ended offensive information war. Something in the looming specter of Donald Trump and the populist movements, Bernie Sanders, of 2016 reawakened sleeping monsters in the West. Disinformation, a half-forgotten relic of the Cold War, was newly spoken of as an urgent existential threat. Russia was said to have exploited the vulnerabilities to the open internet to bypass U.S. strategic defenses by infiltrating private citizens' phones and laptops. The Kremlin's endgame was to colonize the minds of its targets, a tactic cyber warfare specialists called cognitive hacking. And this is a great sleight of hand, a great three-card Monty that they did because, right? Because people ate it up. They really did believe this. And the hacking was done by whom? Our own intelligence agencies, right? Defeating this specter was treated as a matter of national survival. The U.S. is losing at influence warfare, warned a December 2016 article in the defense industry journal Defense One. The article quoted two government insiders arguing that laws written to protect U.S. citizens from state spying were jeopardizing national security. Just like, free speech is a danger to our democracy. According to Rand Waltzman, a former program manager at the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA, America's adversaries enjoyed a significant advantage as a result of legal and organizational constraints that we are subject to, and they are not. Right? The point was echoed by Michael Lumpkin, or put simply, these people are using free speech to harm people. So free speech is dangerous because it could be used to harm you. So we need to protect you by what? Taking away your free speech. Yeah, sounds good. Come on. Take it from me as quickly as you can. Anyways. The point was echoed by Michael Lumpkin, who headed the State Department's Global Engagement Center, the agency Obama designated to run the U.S. counter-disinformation campaign. Lumpkin singled out the Privacy Act of 1974, a post-Watergate law protecting U.S. citizens from having their data collected by the government, as antiquated. The 1974 Act was created to make sure that we aren't collecting data on U.S. citizens. Well, by definition, the World Wide Web is worldwide. There is no passport that goes with it. If it's a Tunisian citizen in the United States or a U.S. citizen in Tunisia, I don't have the ability to discern that. If I had more ability to work with that personally identifiable information and had access, I could do more targeting more definitively to make sure I could hit the right message to the right audience at the right time. The message from the U.S. defense establishment was clear. To win the information war, an existential conflict taking place in the borderless dimensions of cyberspace, the government needed to dispense with outdated legal distinctions between foreign terrorists and American citizens. You see where this is going, right? Since 2016, and again, if I may point out, sorry for, saying this over and over, Trump is the perfect foil for that. This is not in defense of Trump, or right? He's a foil. He's a good person to put forward. See, this guy is dangerous, so we have to take away your free speech and your freedom of protest and your freedom to care about elections because this guy is bad, right? It doesn't matter about Trump. Trump is inconsequential. If it wasn't Trump, it would be somebody else. You understand? Anyways, since 2016, the federal government has spent billions of dollars on turning the counter-disinformation complex into one of the most powerful forces in the modern world. A sprawling leviathan with tentacles reaching into both the public and private sector, which the government used to direct a whole-of-society effort that aims to seize total control over the internet and achieve nothing less than the eradication of human error. Step one in the national mobilization to defeat disinfo fused the U.S. national security infrastructure with the social media platforms where the war was being fought. The government's lead counter-disinformation agency, the GEC, declared that its mission entailed seeking out and engaging the best talent within the technology sector. To that end, the government started deputizing tech executives as de facto wartime information commissars. At companies like Facebook, Twitter, Google, and Amazon, the upper management levels had always included veterans of the national security establishment. But with the new alliance between the U.S. national security and social media, the former spooks and intelligence agency officials grew into a dominant bloc inside those companies. What had been a career ladder by which people stepped up from their government experience to reach private sector tech jobs turned into an Ouroboros that molded the two together. With the DC Silicon Valley fusion, the federal bureaucracies could rely on informal social connections to push their agenda inside the tech companies. In the fall of 2017, the FBI opened its Foreign Influence Task Force for the express purpose of monitoring social media to flag accounts trying to discredit U.S. individuals and institutions. Wow. The Department of Homeland Security took on a similar role. At around that same time, Hamilton 68 blew up. Publicly, Twitter's algorithms turned the Russian influence exposing dashboard into a major news story. Behind the scenes, Twitter executives quickly figured out that it was a scam. When Twitter reverse engineered the secret list, it found, according to the journalist Matt Taibbi, that instead of tracking how Russia influenced American attitudes, Hamilton 68 simply collected a handful of mostly real, mostly American accounts and described their organic conversations as Russian scheming. The discovery prompted Twitter's head of trust and safety, Yoel Roth, to suggest in an October 2017 email that the company take action to expose the hoax and call this out on the bullshit it is. In the end, neither Roth nor anyone else said a word. Instead, they let a purveyor of industrial-grade bullshit, the old-fashioned term for disinformation, continue dumping its contents directly into the news stream. It was not enough for a few powerful agencies to combat disinformation. The strategy of national mobilization called for not only the whole of government, but also whole of society approach, according to a document released by the GEC in 2018. To counter propaganda and disinformation, the agency stated, will require leveraging expertise from across government, tech, and marketing sectors, academia, and NGOs. This is how the government created war against disinformation, because became the great moral crusade of its time. CIA officers at Langley came to share a cause with hip young journalists in Brooklyn, progressive nonprofits in D.C., George Soros-funded think tanks in Prague, racial equity consultants, private equity consultants, tech company staffers in Silicon Valley, Ivy League researchers, and failed British royals. Never Trump Republicans joined forces with the Democratic National Committee, which declared online disinformation a whole of society problem that requires a whole of society response. Even trenchant critics of the phenomenon, including Taibbi and the Columbia Journalism Review's Jeff Girth, who recently published a dissection of the press's role in promoting false Trump-Russia collusion claims, have focused on the media's failures. A framing largely shared by conservative publications which treat disinformation as an issue of partisan censorship bias. But while there's no question that the media has utterly disgraced itself, it's also a convenient fall guy, by far the weakest player in the counter-disinformation complex. The American press, once the guardian of democracy, was hollowed out to the point that it could be worn like a hand puppet by the U.S. security agencies and party operatives. Right. So Operation Mockingbird, it didn't go away, it became stronger, right? It just became more stealth. It would be nice to call, this is a great paragraph here, it would be nice to call what has taken place a tragedy, but an audience is meant to learn something from a tragedy. As a nation, America not only has learned nothing, it has been deliberately prevented from learning anything while being made to chase after shadows, right? Well, because they're still censoring people who say, who try to expose these things. This is not because Americans are stupid. It's because what has taken place is not a tragedy, but something closer to a crime. Disinformation is both the name of the crime and the means of covering it up. A weapon that doubles as a disguise. The crime is the information war itself, which was launched under false pretenses and by its nature destroys the essential boundaries between the public and private and between the foreign and domestic, on which peace and democracy depend. By conflating the anti-establishment politics of domestic populists with acts of war by foreign enemies, it justified turning weapons of war against American citizens. It turned the public arenas where social and political life take place into surveillance traps and targets for mass psychological operations. The crime is the routine violation of Americans' rights by unelected officials who secretly control what individuals can think and say. What we are seeing now in the revelations exposing the inner workings of the state corporate censorship regime is only the end of the beginning. The United States is still in the earliest stages of mass mobilization that aims to harness every sector of society under a singular technocratic rule. The mobilization, which began as a response to the supposedly urgent menace of Russian interference, now evolves into a regime of total information control that has arrogated to itself the mission of eradicating abstract dangers such as error, injustice, and harm, a goal worthy only of leaders who believe themselves to be infallible or comic book supervillains. All right, you know what? I'm going to end that there. It's a really good article. I suggest you read it. It's on my Twitter page, so you can find the article there. Or I could just put it in the links here. I think I'm going to head into wrapping up the show here. Give me 1 second. Let's see. Just all right. Checking in, see if I have any messages here. No. All right, guys. Hey, William, I'm not going to take any calls today. I'm sorry, man. I will. I got to take off and wrap up this show. But thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate you. You all are beautiful, and I will see you tomorrow at the regular time of 12 p.m. Pacific Daylight. And until next time, peace.